teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. I'm here making a video. It is, well actually it's 2:52, so it's not super early in the day, but I got to not go to school today, which was lovely. We had a rain day, which I realized to my British friends might seem bizarre. We don't get a lot of rain here, and the UAE had a storm coming through that they actually preemptively closed schools for. And the Omani services were keeping an eye on it, the government departments. We got a message through middle of the day yesterday that we were closing at 12:45, and the parents were free to pick up their kids any point between then and now, because the storm was coming in or expected to come in between 3 and 4. And usually the kids obviously leave later, and then there was a chance they were going to get stuck in it on the road. And that's really the big thing here. It's not that the storm here is super bad. We've had rain, which has been lovely, but they were expecting it to start around then and go overnight. And one of the things with being this kind of climate is the fact that flash floods are really common, particularly around the wadis. So you have to be very careful on the roads because flooding is so prevalent. And that's actually why, I don't remember if I ever showed you this, but the curbsides on the roads are super deep. They'll easily come up to my mid-calf, and it's to help prevent water going over. So it doesn't happen super frequently, but they were keeping an eye on it, and they just said, you know, we don't want people driving through this if you can help it. So particularly for people coming from further out or from closer to danger areas, they don't want you in the valleys, they don't want you in the places. So they just said we're cancelling school today. So I got the day off, which is really nice. Hopefully everyone is safe. Like I said, it's not dangerous around here. It's just, we'd rather you weren't moving around if you could help it. Somebody actually asked me last time school got cancelled, does my pay get impacted? No, it doesn't. If the school's pretty reasonable anyway, but if it's not by my own accord, I am not choosing to miss work. Work is not there. So if we are given an order to close, it doesn't impact our salary at all. Generally, and this hasn't been the case in every school I've worked in, but generally this school is pretty reasonable with the needs of teachers. For example, as long as you don't, take the mick. But for example, if you're sick, you can have a day off without a doctor's note. But if it's going to be longer than a day, you need to be signed off by a doctor. I've never tested the limits of that. I'm sure there are people that do. I've only actually ever taken one sick day, so I've never had to go to a doctor to get signed off sick here. But so long as you can prove you are sick, they will work with you. So it's not really an issue of, you are not getting paid now, As I said, I realize that sounds like common sense. We are human beings, we get sick, but it's not something you see everywhere. So I have had a very chill day. I caught up with the live stream, or I had it going while I was doing my makeup and pottering around. I've just taken some beef out of the freezer. I was thinking, sorry, not the point of the reaction, excuse me. I was thinking of walking over to the supermarket and maybe getting some fresh herbs. I don't know if you guys watch Middle Eats, which is like a cooking channel with Middle Eastern food. They did this combination between like kofta and a shakshuka. So it's shakshuka but with like meatballs in the sauce. And I was like, that looks amazing, and I think I want to make it tonight. But anyway, moving on. The point was, I had some extra time and I had Foodie going. I've sort of been avoiding her lives recently. I have not been watching her gaming streams because, man, no, I don't like horror games anyway, but she is not good at it. We have had community posts talking about reactors, which she hasn't deleted. She did say she wasn't going to be talking about them anymore, but it's there and it's not deleted. She didn't take it down. She has tried to move past it kind of in two ways. One, she put up a cameo ad, and two, she had a political post, which I feel was very much there to divert attention, have people talking about something else. But then I am biased. Maybe I just think that about everything she does. She did seem to have a few days there where she was simmering more obviously than usual about reactors, and then suddenly remembered her new branding. So her live today was called Good Morning, and it was recorded early. She said she got up for Fajr, and it was 5:52 a.m. when the live was starting. She's sitting half in the dark. She says it's dark now, but the sun will come up, and she doesn't want to bother getting up to turn on the light. Some of these are conversations with chat as always, so we'll go back and forth with topics. She said she probably won't go to Canada for good, but maybe to visit, and she misses fall. When someone asks her if she gets lonely, she says no, but then confirms that she has no real social circle by saying that she talks to Salah all day, every day, and her family. She says that she socializes with the wives of Salah's friends if they hang out, which is quite the caveat because she seems to have been a destructive force through his friends' circle. Someone asks her to show the morning routine she has, and she kind of sighs like it's a huge effort, and maybe it is, but then she says she might make a tea and she's hungry. And I get that she's sighing because things are an effort for her, and she doesn't really have a routine, that she's doing now is the closest thing she has. She doesn't have a central point in her life or something else that forces her to plan a routine around it. So asking her for a routine is actually quite difficult. And while I get that, it does make me wonder about the idea of everyday Mariam, because the name itself implies that you will see her among her everyday routines as somebody who might be living a slightly different style of life to you because of her location. And that's the interest, seeing the similarities and the differences of daily life from a Middle Eastern perspective. Or it would usually be the interest in these cases. And she's trying to build her channel around that, but it's something she doesn't really have and doesn't really want to develop. And that's just going to continue being an ongoing problem for her. If she doesn't have any interest, if she doesn't want to make content on anything, then I know the point is money, but what's the point of making the channel? You have to have some kind of interest in what you're making. So for example, I have a second channel. The viewership on that channel is not high. That's fine. Right now, it's mainly about budgeting, but when I made it, it was there kind of as a backup in case this one went down. But also I wanted to separate out my foodie content. So I made milk tea chilled and I put all of kind of the makeup things. I had one or two makeup things. I had one or two like personal vlogs and stuff like that. And I put them over onto that channel. And when I started looking more at budgeting and looking more at long-term financial planning, which is a thing that interests me at the moment because I am currently trying to solidify plans for my retirement, which I realize is in 20 years, but it takes a while, I moved the content over to there. Now, is that going to get as much interest as this? No. It's a smaller community. Finance videos can make a look on YouTube, but general budgeting tends to be quite a small audience base. And I'm not particularly known in that community, so there's no reason for me to have a lot of viewers. That's fine because the purpose it serves for me is not the same as the content that Chantal puts out. I don't rely on it for my income, so I can do it by interest and it can remain small. But it is something I do because I find it interesting. I find it helpful to me. I like going back and looking at the numbers and seeing how they grow. And if people want to do it with me, then great. If they want to be part of that community, then great. The problem Chantal is having is around the eating, which her body is at the point where she's having trouble with it. She only really had the mess of her life. Now, her life is still messy, but she doesn't want to showcase it anymore. So when you take that away, she has nothing to replace it with. And I know that sounds harsh. I don't mean to say she has nothing in life, but there is an emptiness there where if you take these things away, what does she do? And the answer is really not a lot. And when you particularly say, okay, well, she doesn't want to share things anyway, all right, then it doesn't seem like YouTube is the place for you then. But obviously she's going to keep up with YouTube because that's what she has to earn money. So she gets quite annoyed when people suggest a hobby. She's like, I don't like crafts. You don't have to do a craft. But if you're not going to have mess and you're not going to have food and you don't want to share your routines or show your routines because it's hard on your body, yes, she's got the gaming streams. That's something she can sit and do. She could develop that if she wanted, but then you've got to come online knowing how to use the stuff and maybe watch a tutorial or two. Practice offline so you've got the basic mechanisms down in the game before you turn on the camera so people can be interested. She can change the direction of her channel, but at the moment she just doesn't have a direction to change it to. And one of the reasons crafts is such a big suggestion is that it is something you can film and doesn't require a lot of physical effort if it's one of the paper-based crafts or the yarn-based crafts. I've taken a little bit of a sideways turn there. Sorry, just something I was thinking. That's why I'm here. She's talking about being in pain again. She's making quite a big deal of it here. She had suggested it was more or less resolved by now, but it seems to be back, whether it's a relapse or what have you. Maybe as a reason for her not to be with Salah on his trip. She confirms that she's not sure how long she can sit, etc. She's talking about doing a video comparing Canada to here, and that would be an idea if she was going to go any deeper when she's like, oh, men don't look at me, men don't, whatever, which is what she's shared so far. If it was less vague and had a bit of footage of examples, that could be interesting. I thought Salah was not there because she said he'd gone on a trip. There's been some back and forth about her saying he's there versus not there. But she says she's being quiet because he's sleeping. And then she's like, he doesn't know I'm live, but I'm not beezing or anything, so it's fine, which was an interesting statement. It doesn't speak to great communication if she's hiding being live from him and justifying it. She says she's taking cleaning room by room. She hasn't gotten a maid and doesn't feel right getting one when she's lying in bed looking like a seal. That's her words, not mine. For what it's worth, I always leave the house when my cleaner comes because I do also find it awkward. If she was just having a cleaner, she's not got a big apartment, if she was just having a cleaner come in once every couple of weeks so she could keep up with it, or once a week, then she could use that time to go and get groceries. But she doesn't seem to want to plan around that. The pain seems to be worsening again. She might just be having a bad day with it, or she might just be emphasizing it more. Because in her previous lives, when she was mad at FFG for privating videos, she seemed to be moving around the room, throwing herself in and out of the chair without any kind of sounds or without any problems. She wasn't focusing on it at all and didn't seem to be struggling with that any more than like heavy breathing or her usual movement. There didn't seem to be any acute pain. And she also said she was up for prayer, which would involve bending down and getting up a lot. Obviously, you can make adjustments if you're not physically capable of doing that, but she doesn't mention that. She wants to try cooking today. She says she has to go to the clinic to get an injection, a vitamin injection, and admit she doesn't have much else to do. She does say later she's maybe going to talk to them about getting pain injections again. And talk to them if your pains come back, because that's a change, apparently. But I assume if they wanted to give you more pain injections, she'd already be on them. But always talk to the doctor, yes. She says the state of the apartment isn't so bad, but Salah cares about the state of it more than Pete's did. And that her and Pete used to enable kind of their worst behaviours together, which I would say is definitely true. Neither of them cared much about cleanliness. That's an understatement. And she talks a little bit about the chores that she has to do. Obviously, the conversation goes back and forth in the chat, so when I jump to these topics, it might have been a while. She says she hasn't always been a good person and has repented a lot to Allah about the person she used to be in the past. She literally put up a community post less than a day ago, stirring up the dramas that she claimed to have left behind. So while she may or may not have repented, I'm not in her head, I can't say anything about that. She doesn't seem to be changing her actions. So again, while intent counts for a lot, if your intention is to say you repented rather than do it, going by Foodie's belief system, then Allah would also know that. She says she hasn't been to Starbucks since she's been back. You remember she used those gift cards at Starbucks because once she got back to Canada, screw any belief, right? I was actually in a Starbucks the other day and they had a card on each table with a QR code. I was going to take a picture and put it up on Twitter, and I didn't. I kind of wish I had now. Didn't realize it was going to come up here. But it had a QR code. On one side it had English and the other side it had Arabic, saying that in order to fight the misrepresentation of the company's image, they wanted to clarify their stance. And that was on every table in both languages. I didn't scan it, but maybe I will next time and see what they're officially saying their stance is here. Because a lot of people are boycotting here. They're refusing to go to like Sephora, they're refusing to go to Starbucks, things like that. Somebody asked her, and I'm amazed she kind of answered this, but I suppose not if she's looking for interest. Do you ever feel you're ruining your life staying in Kuwait and not giving yourself a chance to be truly happy by meeting someone who could be faithful to you? Now, given her previous stance of I'm not talking about my private life anymore, it would be better, I think, not to read that question out. But she needs a topic of conversation. She said she's cutting off talking about what happened, but then goes on to answer it by saying, but no, they're healing, they're closer than ever, and he really regrets it. Oh, good job not talking about it, Miriam. She also says if she ever got divorced, she would probably not worried about getting married again. She'd have to do it in the Islamic way, and, you know, things never change, hey? Let's just keep talking about it. Confirmed she doesn't have any Kuwaiti friends. Someone asked her if she has a neurologist. She said she doesn't have one yet, and I was like, wait, was that a conversation? I realise if she's having, like, nerve pain and stuff, it may all be connected there, but I feel like I missed that part of the conversation. It might have been in one of her lives previously. People ask what she misses. She misses a lot of packaged food, and this initially confused me because they have a ton of convenience foods here, but she means specific flavors like dill pickle, and I think she misses the chef boyardee. She misses canned, not macaroni, what's it called, ravioli. I've seen like fresh ravioli here, conveniently packaged, like you know, the ready-made you see in the chilled section. It isn't important, it's not everywhere though, so. And I got the feeling that she doesn't want ravioli, the dish, she wants particularly the canned ravioli. She says Salah was just barely awake when she dragged him out of bed for Fajr, and sure, that's what happened. I know that she says she stays awake for Fajr, which could also be the case, and maybe Salah's come back and he's gone to bed, so that's a reason she might have. But given that she had admitted before in live streams, various live streams over the time she's been there, where she said, oh no, I didn't get up or I didn't pray, I doubt she's the driving force with that. She might just happen to have today. Someone mentions a TV and she shows theirs but says it's not plugged in right now, it's on the wall. Because she never lounges out there, I'm always in my room. Not our room? Okay. The chat continues, no one calls around that. Or at least I didn't see anyone. Someone asked if women can get bank accounts. Yes, they can. Wasn't always the way. When I was in Saudi, I had to have a male with me to open my own bank account, but I could once I had my own once I had that, but that was phased out, and now they can, I do believe. I'm not there now though. When I came to Oman, I could have my own. She says she can't talk about it without talking about its status, but that it takes a while to get everything set up. No, not really. Like, getting to the point where you can get a status takes a long time to get set up. But once you're there, the amount of time you actually have to apply, like legally, the amount of time you have to apply isn't very long. I want to say maybe a month, but I might be misremembering that. I didn't check it before I turned the camera on. I know there was a time limit where I am now because the school has to hurry to go and get your medical so that you can apply for everything. And I think you guys were with me, or I put a picture on Twitter or something, when I had to get the medical redone this year to renew it. There are quite short time frames that say, okay, well, if we've given you permission, you need to do the thing. And I'm guessing the vagueness of it is simply the fact that she hasn't done it, so she doesn't have a bank account, because she probably just transfers the money straight over to Salah, which is why he pays for everything, you guys. A few comments from people who basically say, we didn't watch you before, but you're way better now. That doesn't make sense to me, but we'll move on. It could be Beezers, or it could also be people who are just trying to set up some trolling for later, so they're just agreeing with whatever she says. Someone says she seems sad. She says no, she's being quiet because she's in pain and she's trying not to wake up Salah. She asked if she should get something to eat and grabs what I think was some cheese. Someone tells her she should be scared, and as she's eating, she says, well, maybe I am. Like it proves something, it was weird. She talks about how resisting food is so hard for her. She acknowledges that she has been using it as a coping mechanism since she was a kid, but remains hopeful. Hopeful of changing no habits and having success, I guess. I don't quite understand where that hope is coming from when she's refusing to change what she's actually doing. It reminds me a little bit of when she did that Taco Bell mukbang and she was like, I'm changing nothing. No one has achieved. Nobody does this and loses weight, but let's see. And I'm like, let's see what exactly. And then like the next day she was like, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, no, you're right, it doesn't. There's a reason no one did this. There is a reason people go to therapy to come up with better coping mechanisms, and there is a reason therapy is needed to do it, because it's not an easy thing. Speaking of, someone mentions therapy, and she said, I've got written down here, not always. Oh, that was why. Sorry, I didn't understand my own notes for a second. Someone must have said something like therapy can be really helpful or something along those lines. It was about therapy. And she said, not always. She maybe didn't give it enough of a try, which I felt was key, and she just glossed right over. But she was in outpatient for eating disorders. And I really think she should have focused on the first part of that a lot more. You can be in 20 programs. If you do not engage in those programs, they are not helping you. They might not help you if you engage, but Chantal will never get to the point where she's consistently doing that. So the number of programs she's been referred to, or the number of programs she's been to once, just show the amount of resources she's wasted, not the amount of progress she's made or the severity of her disorder. This isn't, I did it and it didn't work. This is, I was offered it, I didn't take advantage of it, and nothing has changed. And that's basically all the notes I have for this. She spends a lot of time saying, okay then, goodbye, thank you for being here. It kind of trails off. There isn't a lot else to talk about. So this is a nice short one, little bonus for you, because I should be doing meetings right now, and I'm glad I'm not. And we will see what comes out from the channel quite soon. So thank you very much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.